Buenos dias and greetings from the date palm forest oasis town of San Ignacio in Baja South, Baja California Sur here in Mexico, as I'm getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, but it's a good sign because it means I'm actually moving south and getting somewhere, and mosquitoes gotta eat too. That's always my philosophy around mosquito bites, and I love the tropics, so I gotta be okay with them. Yesterday here at this little bike camping hostel family that is letting me camp here, it's so awesome. I watched my buddy Giedis's video. His YouTube channel is Love the Climb. Giedis is one of my brothers for many years, fellow vegan YouTuber, cyclist dude, trying to manifest his dreams and live his ultimate reality as well, as I am too, and hopefully you are as well. And he made an incredible, raw, vulnerable, heart-wrenching video about questioning his path and questioning the labels and boxes he has put in his life that are not serving him anymore and how he can change it. Additionally, Anthony Bourdain's suicide obviously struck a chord in everyone on the internet and around the whole world. And I wanted to, those were the two things that inspired me to weigh in on this video and explain my struggles with mental health, with depressive thoughts. I don't think I don't struggle with clinical depression for sure. I don't, but I have had episodes of it, especially when I was in the midst of a 2.5 year long eating disorder with very little friends, bad mental health. And those were the things that inspired me to make this video. And I also, I've talked about mental health and eating disorders extensively in the past on my YouTube channel, but I kind of get distracted sometimes and go through phases of, I'm traveling, making vlogs, and I don't struggle with those things as much anymore. Again, as much. It's not like I have perfect mental health and have cured my eating disorder. Not at all. It's still a daily thing that I need to maintain in order to remember that I love myself regardless of my food or my exercise or body image. It's a constant thing that I have to keep in check with. So I wanted to go back and share some things that I've sort of unpacked in the last year of why I have developed such a, just why I had my eating disorder and struggles with mental health, in hopes that my story can help strike something within you in order to make more sense of it and become a happier person, to just love yourself for who you are, not based on the external things that you do or accomplish in life. So where I want to begin is, and by the way, I should say a lot of new revelations I've had around why I maybe developed negative mental health and had mental health struggles happened after my ayahuasca ceremony that I participated in a few months ago in the Bay Area, and that really struck some new, made me realize some new things about my past. I think a lot of mental health struggles that people go through have to do with their past, whether that's their family or another traumatic experience they had. Thankfully, I don't think I have or remember any traumatic or abusive experiences too badly growing up. But here's something about my past that you probably don't know, is that in my great, loving, privileged family that I grew up in, my two brothers, which they don't like to be on the vlog too much, but my two brothers are really intellectually smart. They don't have the street skills that I have. They don't have the solo travel or fitness or like mechanical hand skills that I have. I'm always building things, fixing things, and I can go travel the world alone. But school was much easier for them, and school was much harder for me because all I cared about were animals and being outside and riding my bike and art growing up. And my brothers, they're the kind of people that didn't have to study too hard, even though they still did, and just get straight A's regardless and are really, really smart. And so my parents put me in the exact same schools and stuff that my brothers went through as well. But school was really hard for me, and I always felt like the dumb kid, to be honest. I It was harder for me to read than all my other peers. I had to work really hard just to get like B minuses, and everyone else in my community, all my friends and my brothers and stuff, it came easier to them. So immediately as a kid, I developed a thought that I was less than, that I was not smart, and I didn't know what I was good at. I wasn't the best athlete, even though I tried to be. I wasn't the smartest, and that hurt. That hurt me. But I didn't realize it too much at the time, and I went through high school just being a normal kid and having friends, having some episodes of like getting too into girls, and then they break up with me, and I was pretty depressed and sad, but I would say it was pretty normal most of the time. Didn't have terrible mental health. I had friends growing up. And then I went on my gap year before starting college, and I was an artist throughout high school, and that's what I excelled at, and that felt pretty good actually, because I was good. So I finally found the thing. Okay, academics maybe isn't my thing, but I'm really good at art. I even won the like senior art award at my school for my illustration and my ceramic pottery, so that was good. So I got into art school, and I decided to go study art in college because that's what I was good at. And that's what made me feel good compared to the environment that I maybe grew up in the schools and with my brothers, where I felt less than. And I should say, just because my parents love to watch my videos, my parents never made me feel like I was less than. My parents always loved me for who I am. These aren't things that parents can completely control. This is just a part of life. We get, oh, there's like a fence here, so now that's making a pattern on my face, but whatever, that doesn't matter. So where was I? I got into art school. I decided to study that, in school, but I deferred for a year because I wanted to go travel and not go back into an academic institution, which gave me a lot of trauma growing up because I did not like school. So I needed to take time off, and I went and traveled the world, and my life completely changed. I rode my bike across America. That was my first bike tour. I went to Indonesia and lived on this orangutan orphanage. I did some hiking, and then I realized that I actually didn't want to study art. I wanted to go into something environmental science, environmental policy making, which is what I ended up doing at Colorado College. But at the end of my gap year, I had to go do this one semester at this art school because we paid and reserved my spot because I deferred for a year. And that is the exact time, like a week or a couple months before starting before going into college, where I started to develop an eating disorder and started to control my food for the first time in my life. This was even a few months before going vegan. I went vegan a few months later for just ethical and health reasons. The eating disorder and control around food happened like midway through my gap year, when I realized I didn't want to go to art school anymore. So my whole identity of what I thought I was good at and excelled at over others was broken all of a sudden, because I realized it's not what I was going to do. So now I didn't know what I was going to do. How was I going to be great? What was I going to be great at? And I didn't know. So what I did was attach onto the things that interested me in that moment, which happened to be food and exercise. I was getting into backpacking, so I was researching like ultra running and weight loss and fitness, and also I was getting into food, and I was researching about veganism and health, and that whole combination of going into college not knowing what I was gonna be great at anymore. I decided to harness my fitness and exercise and control of eating as what I was good at. I wanted to be the person who ate super healthy as a 19-year-old, even though all my other peers were eating junk food and drinking beer. I was like, okay, I'll be the best and great, and thus love myself, because I didn't grow up with any spiritual framework. I didn't know I didn't know you could love yourself just for existing. I thought you had to be great at something. You know, my dad is really great at what he does. He's excelled extensively in his career, had a very successful life. My brothers were just like super geniuses. And so I assumed I had to be incredible at something in order to feel good about myself and to love myself. Later, I realized that is not true. Self-love is actually all within, and external things will not make you happy, and that's what a lot of what this video I'll get into is about. But I attached onto being the fittest, healthiest, leanest person, but that spiraled me into an eating disorder. From the age of 19 to 21, I was 140 pounds as a 6'2" dude. I refused to eat oil, flour, refined sugar, salt, and I controlled my food so crazy to the point where I just lost so much weight, couldn't eat socially. I lost my sex drive. I was a 19-year-old freshman in college, not interested in women for the first time in my life. All I cared about was going to bed early, getting my workout in, making sure I had all my organic superfoods and eating them all at every meal, which was terrible for my digestion. It was a shitty time, and again, I don't want to say I was depressed because people struggle with clinical depression and I definitely don't, but I was down as fuck on life. About maybe 6 months to a year into my eating disorder is when I really admitted to myself that, oh my God, I'm in a prison, I'm in a problem, I have an eating disorder. First, we justify that we're just doing the best, you know, we're just the healthiest, we're just the fittest, you know, everything's fine. That's what I did to me, even though my friends and family were telling me otherwise. Hey Jackson, you're a little bit intense about this, you're controlling too much. I rejected it because it was the only thing I had now in my life that made me feel good about myself. But a year into it, I admitted to myself that this was a problem. I didn't know what to do about it because I had a mental health issue, didn't love myself enough, and I was using the control of my food and exercise as the medicine to make me feel better, but my medicine was hurting me. That's why eating disorders and exercise addictions is just like being an alcoholic. The alcohol's the medicine that gets you through the day. It just happens to also be the thing that's ruining your life and isn't healthy. And that's the prison that I was in. I didn't know what to do. The thing that I attached to, being excellent at something, being great at something, trying to be the best athlete, be the fittest person, was literally eating me alive and killing me, and I had no friends because of it. I got obsessed with it, and I couldn't go to bed at night loving myself if I didn't restrict my food and work out super, super hard. But I wasn't even good at what I was doing because, of course, when you're not nourishing yourself and you're over-exercising, you're not even going to be good at the thing that you're trying to be good at. That's why it's a psychosis. It's crazy in your mind. It's an illness. And so I struggled with that for about 2.5 years intensely, and then through my yoga teacher training is when I started the recovery process. That was 4 years ago in 2014, and I've been slowly recovering ever since. And sometimes I have episodes that are really good where I have people in my life and I'm socializing and I can talk about these things like the Woodstock Fruit Festival. My mental health never feels better than at the Woodstock Fruit Festival which I'm not going to for the first time this year in 5 years, but what the Woodstock Fruit Festival is a week of hanging out with like-minded people who are pure love, who are talking about just community and sharing and vulnerability and loving yourself, and people are sharing their stories, and you just go to bed at night not caring, at least I do, not caring about what I did throughout the day, but just the fact that I have these friends that love me and we're all sharing this experience and we're all one. You know, those are those are the times where my mental health is the best and I feel the best. So where do I want to go from this video? Is talk about relate it to Gitas's video and this concept of putting yourself in a box and trying to achieve a certain goal thinking that it's going to make you happy and improve your mental health is a lie to yourself. I think the only thing that can make you feel better and truly love yourself is through trying to love yourself regardless of the external factors. It's hard to explain this, but I'm someone, and maybe you, and I'm making this video if you can relate to this, someone who struggles with loving myself despite all the external results that are happening in my life. You know, my instinct reaction is that I need to attach onto a label, whether that's athlete, YouTuber, you know, be the most famous YouTuber, or be just something where I can measure my excellence in order to love myself and feel good, is my instinct reaction. Maybe it's the culture that we're raised in or the families that we were raised in, who knows? But, you know, Gitas in his video admitted that, you know, he's just over exercising and trying to be the best triathlete, and that's how he was measuring his life and success until the point where he frickin' kicked a pole because he realized he was so unhappy and destroyed his foot, and then had to admit that, you know, it's just trying to mask the symptoms by pretending that the only way to make you happy is to be excellent at something. My most depressed and saddest and worst mental health was when I attached onto the label of being the best vegan, maybe triathlete, fit person, and that was the only thing that was going to make you happy, that was going to make me happy. And thus, I rejected and neglected all the other things in my life that are actually the most sustainable and real sources of happiness, which is a spiritual practice, connection to a higher power, whether that's the universe. For me, it's not religious, it's not God, it's literally just the concept that we are all one in nature, and that just nature as existence is love and is oneness, and that thus you have to connect with people. You have to look at plants and love them, and look at animals and love them, and love each other, and get hugs by people, and share and hug people for too long, and express vulnerability. Isolation, eating disorders, and I think just negativity and mental health issues, they thrive off of isolation. The more we isolate ourselves, the more we feed into the false narrative we create that it's the external things in our life, our accomplishments, our successes, our body image, our food control, that those are the things that are the most important. When we isolate, we think that those are the things that are going to make us happy, when in reality, they take us down a very negative and dangerous spiral. And I think the most sustainable source is to have self-love and mental health. Again, loving yourself, spiritual practice, and connection to something bigger than just your ego, community. It's pretty much it. And then there are the things which makes this such a complicated issue, like exercise and eating healthy. Those are chemical endorphins that are going to make you feel better, but you can take that drug too far. I took that drug too far, of thinking that if I was just the healthiest, the rawest, the most nutrient dense, and the fittest person, getting those chemicals and endorphins in your mind, that's going to make me happy all the time. But that medicine is like any other drug. You can overdose on it and it can spiral you out of control. That's the reality. It sucks to talk about that in the vegan community because we're always talking about eating healthy, about just checking the time that I'm recording, eating healthy and exercising. Those are healthy things, but in moderation. It can go too far. It went too far for me, and I know it went too far for my friend Gitas too, because when you use those drugs as your only source of happiness, you're going to lose the other things are going to drop in your life, the social interaction, the spiritual practice. And when I was in the midst of my eating disorder and mental health issues, the worst of it, I was not prioritizing hanging out with friends. I was not prioritizing meditation or anything spiritual. It was all narcissistically in my food and exercise. And if I did those things, I could go to bed at night and love myself. But not actually, because I hated myself more than anything during those times. It's just a drug. Intense stuff for me to reflect on that for sure. So what do we do about it? I think what Gitas is doing inspired me so much. He said, what I'm going to do about this, because now that he has the realization and awareness that the drugs he was taking of exercise and the false narrative of being the best at this one thing, and that's going to make him happy, he decided to reprogram and ditch the pattern and lifestyle habits that got him into this situation, abandon that, surrender. It's all about surrender. So surrender the overexercise, surrender the control of food, and that's what I've done over my life. I was into being an endurance athlete, of running the most and being the leanest, and also not eating oil and not eating any processed foods. So one of my practices when I was recovering back in 2014, and what I still do today, and I'll explain, like, by me drinking alcohol recently for the first time in 5 years. So when I went vegan and developed all this eating disorder stuff, not only did I not eat oil or refined food and all of that, but I stopped doing any drugs at all and stopped drinking any alcohol, no coffee, just no nothing. And over the last few years in my recovery, when I was recovering from my eating disorder, I had to surrender, and I said, fuck it, I'll eat a veggie burger with oil at a restaurant, a vegan burger with foods that I was scared to eat before, but I surrendered. And you eat it, and then you realize that sharing a burger with your friend is more important and feels better than being the guy who brings his stupid little salad to a restaurant because he's scared of eating the burger because he won't be able to go to bed at night and love himself because he's like a normal person and ate oil. If that makes sense to you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And what you need to do is surrender. You are not better than other people because you are oil free. You're no better. Other people are better than you who eat it if they have better relationships and love themselves more. It's narcissistic and ego driven to think that you're better and you're going to love yourself if you have the most discipline in something that isn't even serving you. Unless you need to be off of these foods for medical reasons, for whatever. But me, I was just a normal person with not trying to be a professional athlete or anything, living this lifestyle that was stupid. It was too much. So surrendering is the most healing thing that you can do. Recently, I decided to drink a beer with some locals for the first time in 6 years, I think, of voluntarily drinking an entire can of alcohol, can of beer. I still haven't drinking any hard alcohol, not interested in that, but just a beer. Enjoying a beer with friends is something that I still, over the last 6 years, I felt good. I felt an ego boost that I didn't drink alcohol. Everyone drinks alcohol, but that's because they're weak. And so I'm not going to do it. And I said, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to surrender and see how this feels. I drank the beer with the locals, and I realized, oh my God, this makes me feel so much better. Not the alcohol. I didn't even get drunk. I drank like one beer. I've never drinking more still in the last couple of weeks of drinking beer sometimes. Never drinking more than 2 beers in one night. So it's not even that I get drunk. It's the concept of surrendering the label that I had to be sober and, putting that on a pedestal and feeling good and strong about that. Surrendering is the ultimate medicine. And once you start surrender more and more things, which I have, I'll now eat processed vegan food once in a while. I'll drink a beer with some friends because that's just because I can, because I'm just a normal human trying to connect with people. We create these labels and things that don't serve us after a period of time, but they're really hard to break because they become our repetitive habits. And the practice of surrendering those things and getting back to just loving yourself for being normal, for assimilating, for being like others. As someone who gets a lot of ego boosts at being different, it's extremely healthy and healing for me to connect with others and get on other people's level and take off these pedestals that I develop for myself. And it feels really, really good. And it improves my mental health significantly, because once you let those things go, you realize that the things that make you happy are just connecting with people. And ultimately, that's what it is. I recently had another realization in my life that, you know what, I'm gonna be happy if I just like make some money off YouTube and help some people, and probably never become the most famous YouTuber, even though that's kind of what I've been trying to do, and I really still want to, because I want to get my message out. But I can still have a really good life making pottery and, doing what I just really, really love, being a bit more humble, buying some land, making a modest, normal life, not having to make an insane amount of money, which also in my family is something that I struggle with, because I come from a privileged family who kind of has a lot of metrics of a successful life based on being able to go to the fanciest restaurants and the best hotels and have the best house. So I thought like I had to make a lot of money and have a really good career in order to be happy and love myself. But in reality, I'm living an incredible, amazing, satisfying life now. And if I still never become the most famous YouTuber and have to one day when I want to start a family get another job because this job doesn't make me enough money, and I make some pottery or teach or who knows, and I just have a humble family with a little farm and just like not be the greatest or biggest celebrity ever, that's fucking okay too. In fact, it's probably better. I'll probably be happier just living a more normal life and not having to achieve these incredible metrics of celebrity success. Again, if it doesn't happen naturally. If it does happen naturally, that'll be amazing, because all I want to do is have the biggest megaphone to share stuff like this, share real shit to the world, be a real influencer in media and on social media, or however big that gets someday. But if I have to force it, and if it never happens, that's okay. If I never get a TV show traveling the world eating vegan food, that's okay. I can still have a family and live a humble life. And, I'm so happy when I'm just around people that I love, and I love myself, and I have my spiritual practice, and I'm not over exercising, and I just eat fun food. That's what makes me happier. But in the past, I developed these labels and boxes in my life that I thought I had to be this other version of myself in order to be happy. And that's what being having disordered eating, disordered habits, mental health issues, that's what it is. It's saying that this other life that you think you need to become is what's going to make you happy, whereas what's actually going to sustainably improve your mental health and make you happy is connection to that higher power, loving yourself for just existing, being flooded with community, being vulnerable about your struggles and talking about it, whether that's through therapy or just with your best friend, like really sharing your demons, or your teacher or your family member. And if you're struggling specifically around mental health issues with eating disorders and exercise addictions, please go download my ebook. It's called Recover on my website. Go to the shop page of Plantriotic.com. I get messages almost every day from people who say that they read my book in 1, 2, or 3 days. It's a quick read, but there's a lot of dense, packed information about my personal story, but also the steps you need to take to recover. Because it's one thing if you're watching this knowing that you need to recover. It's not that easy. You need to be walked, with your hand in hand with someone telling you, here's the steps you need to do. Because the hardest thing to do is break the habits that are your medicine. Just like an alcoholic, it's so hard to stop the habits that you think are that are making you happy, but deep down that they're actually just harming you, and that sustainable happiness comes from the things that I've mentioned: community, loving yourself, and surrendering and being vulnerable, and connecting with others, and not pretending to be someone that you're not, and punishing yourself, because that's ultimately what I do, and what maybe you do too, in order to feel that love. So thank you so much for listening. Please go get help, go to therapy, download the ebook, talk to your friends, because you deserve it, because we're all one. We are all one. We're all brothers and sisters, and we all deserve to love ourselves, not just for you, but for the others in your life too. You deserve to, or you have the sort of have the responsibility to love yourself more, so that the people who love you too and want to see you happy, so that they can live in peace too, because we're all one. So much love, dream extreme.